So hello everyone, welcome to another novel escape. My name is Trayvon and this is my non-spoiler book review of Hagseed by Margaret Atwood. Now, Hagseed is an actual retelling of the Shakespeare play, The Tempest. Now, this is between me and you. I don't know jack about Shakespeare. So, yeah, this was my first time hearing about The Tempest. So, after doing some digging around and searching, I was able to find some information on it, find out the plot, and to tell the truth, it gave me a bit more insight into this novel and book by Margaret Atwood. Alright, so definitely having an idea of the plot of The Tempest would definitely help, but it's not necessary. You'll still enjoy the book. Now, this is not a new book. This book has already been released back in 2016. Now, Margaret Atwood, being Margaret Atwood, is of course going to take an interesting turn and look at this Shakespeare play. Now, if you already know who Margaret Atwood is, or if you don't know who Margaret Atwood is, she is the author of The Handmaid's Tale and Alias Grace, which are hugely popular on Hulu and also on Netflix. This story follows our main character Felix. Now, the way Margaret Atwood writes this story, she writes it in a third-person point of view, but it feels like it's first person. It feels like you're always in this character's head and you always know what he's feeling and thinking, and therefore it makes it very interesting. Now, a lot of authors can try this and have a really hard time pulling it off, because why? If your character isn't interesting, we don't want to be in his head. You know what I'm saying? But I think that one thing that carries this story is how interesting this character is. Now, our main character is an art director at a theater, and at the beginning of his story we find out that he has lost his wife suddenly after the birth of their first child, and then later on, not too long after, he loses his first child, and this has had a profound impact on who this character is. Now, right off the bat, the overall feeling I get, and from the beginning of the novel, Margaret Atwood introduces our main character Felix, and from the way she writes him, you can feel how arrogant he is. You can feel how precocious he is. You can just feel, just based on the thoughts that are in his mind, what kind of person he is and how he understands and know his own self-interest. But of course, our character, our main guy, Felix, gets hit with these traumatic incidences of losing his wife and his children and his only child. And now, what does he do? You're gonna have to find out in the discussion portion of this video. I don't want to say too much more than that, or else I'll probably spoil it for somebody. So therefore, definitely check out the discussion portion of the video, or the discussion video, to find out more. Of course, expect spoilers in that part of the video. Now, is this character likable? I definitely feel as if he is likable in a certain way, with a caveat, right? He's not likable in the sense that he's a nice guy, because he isn't. He's kind of he's a bit of a jerk. Felix is definitely a jerk, but he's likable in the sense of that he is of how interesting he is in his own thoughts and in the way he sees the world. I think that's what makes me like him overall. The way other authors tend to make their characters likable, what do? They often put someone sympathetic, and they put a sympathetic thing, just like in The Sopranos. You'll have The Sopranos, even though they go around and kill people and what have you, they're all about family, and they're all about protecting each other and all this other stuff, and that's what makes them likable. Felix, on the other hand, he's just a cool dude. He's just an interesting guy. He's sort of like he's kind of a Superman character who knows a lot and who can do a lot. But on the other hand, he is just going through a really hard time, and then his enemies throw him under the bus in the same breath. Now, we can talk about the antagonist. Now, this is something that I speculate on, and I'm going to go into more detail about in the discussion portion of the video. But I feel as if antagonist for Felix, I mean, he comes across and he sets up some enemies in the beginning, which he later on at the end, towards the end of the story, he gets his revenge on. But to tell you the truth, I feel as if the antagonist in this story is Felix himself. Like, he is his own antagonist. And I know that sounds kind of weird, right? Like, you usually have this outside force who's fighting against, but this is not that kind of story. It's not the kind of story where there's the world is going on like this impending doom, or like a roller coaster running towards a broken track, and everything's about to fall apart. It's not that kind of story, but it's a man who's hell-bent on revenge, and throughout this whole period he is fighting his own demons, pretty much. Now, would I consider that this ending is a satisfying ending? Definitely. I liked the ending. It was definitely a good ending. I enjoyed it. I felt satisfied and relieved at the end. Again, it's not a thriller. It's not like my heart was pounding throughout the entire story. I was just simply, it's great leisurely reading, and I enjoyed it. Now, where does this book stand on my lit-fic list of faves? Well, this book is, I would definitely put it at like the number 3 spot on my literary fiction favorite books. Now, considering that my number 1 spot belongs to and has belonged to The Goldfinch for a while now, number 3 is actually a pretty good spot. Now, considering also that literary fiction is not my main genre that I read. I mainly read fantasy and science fiction, but I read a plethora of other genres because I like to branch out and take a look. If I should give it out of 5 stars, now this was definitely a 4.3 out of 5 star book. Again, considering that Goldfinch for me was like a 4.6, right? This was definitely a 4.3 out of 5 stars. It was high up there just because of how deep Margaret Atwood plunges you into the mindset and the psyche of our main character, Felix. Please like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can get notifications as to when I post another video. And definitely check on the discussion for a more spoiler review, but a more in-depth look on this book. All right, peace.